All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the live. See, we got some people already waiting, guys. So definitely, people have been wanting to see the trio again. So, how are you?
I was wanting that intro music to go on for a while. I was just getting into the jam. I'm like, let's do this.
It's like 2.5 minutes long. Yeah, yeah. Those songs are they're a lot of fun, man. The AI stuff gets crazy.
It is getting.
But I was giving the credit to the Blunt Force band, but I fessed up. I wrote some classical music for the videos I did for my short stories, and that was a trip because I've never even thought I could do such a thing, but I did. So, all right. Well, we got some people here waiting, guys, chomping at the bit, which is awesome. See, we got Penster. Not familiar with Penster. Misleading Evidence is here. Alicia, good to see you. Open Your Peepers. Teresa. Donna Lembo, the captain of the Mayhem Squad. She's coming in and taking you out at your knees and then doing a spinning back kick and knocking you on your ass. So that's what Donna's about if anybody wants to get foolish today. 1953, Words Bloom. Awesome to see you, Words Bloom, all the way from Toronto.
1953 is a brother of mine, Ronnie, from across the pond over in London. And I'm a big fan of his. He's like a brother to me. So I'm appreciative of him being here today. Thank you, Ronnie, for joining us.
Awesome.
Very cool.
That's cool, man. Love the UK people. We're going to be doing a UK case coming up in the Serial Killer Story Hour, too. Got Penster says, hey, DA. Hey, AR. Let's see. Amanda B. Dachshund Nator. He was having fun with me butchering that Dachshund pronunciation last week, but I got my shit together. I'm doing it okay now, apparently. Joe P. Gone Girl 420. Gee, I don't know what that 420 is about. I've heard about that.
you don't know what 420 is.
I don't know really what it is.
My ass.
Cat Farm 42. Tree, very cool. Let's see. Wow, quite a few people in here. Jeremy Pearson. Just a Devil Woman.
Just a devil woman.
Yeah, my mom is here. Very cool. My mom and I. Just talking earlier.
I don't know about you guys, but my wife ran away. She was the smartest one out of everybody in the group. She ran right out that front door when I said I was going live and she said, I'll be back later.
Oh, oh boy, we're in for a
What's
treat.
That about?
Yeah, I don't blame her. I don't blame her. I would have ran out the door if I saw me going live too.
We got Paisley's Posts, Voice of Astrology, Karis over there on the West Coast. Sean Marie. And if I forgot anybody, I missed it in the quick scroll, but I did the best I could there. But great to see a good crowd here. The three of us do draw a crowd, and that's good. Better than drawing flies, AR.
I was going to say, I saw a bunch of names in here that it's funny because you got me kind of, you were one of the people to get me kicked off, Pete, at the very early, stage when I was a smaller channel. And so I see a bunch of names that I recognize as quote unquote my people, but I'm like, I'm not sure they're my people because they might have been your people that found me through you. So I'm just going to don't disrespect the people that the people that I see in here that I recognize your names. If I didn't call you out specifically, I don't want to make a major faux pas and say, it's one of my people. And they're like, fucker, you found them through me.
I was here first. I had them first. Yeah, no, I get a kick out, like I watch, Harsh or something, and I'll see one of my people, which was batshit crazy. That's an easy one to remember. And I remember seeing batshit crazy posted on Harsh, and I was like, oh shit, I know her. She's on my live. So yeah, that's just cool. And that's what, is cool about the true crime community. Certainly no group of people would be without some sort of, problems. But overall, I've been impressed with people trying to get to the right answers. Yeah, you're going to have some outliers acting the fool, and that kind of thing is going to be just always. But the core group of the people, I think, are really good hearted and do genuinely want to try to help and come to the bottom of, get to the bottom of these cases, which is just off the charts insane, some of them, so
Yeah,
I think it's a good community. I've been in the band world is anything but a good community. That's just dog eat dog, brutal, just not, for the most part, not fun behind the scenes, dealing with clubs and trying to get paid and all this stuff. So this is a totally different feel, and I just enjoy doing these. I really don't really make any money off doing the lives at all, but it's just more for the camaraderie, and I've done a few of these alone. I know, Lee, you've been super busy going out east and all that, so we're going to talk about it. But yeah, so it's good that we could all three get together. But want to make sure everybody knows, if you haven't already done it, like the video if you don't mind. And if you're not a subscriber, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, it's a good way to, help things out without having to pay for something. It's free. Just hit subscribe and do that for all three of us. I've got a link in the description to both of their channels. So please, if you haven't already done it, pop over to there. And this has been broadcast on all three of our channels. So you guys may be listening to this from, obviously other places. So whatever the case may be, it's good that we're all together. And like I said, the BS and stuff is always going to be there, but let's just keep it to a minimum. But I saw a comment, guys, from a viewer that said, I can't wait for tonight. The trio rides again. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's been a while. How long has it been since the three of us were together? A couple months maybe? Or has it been
longer? Maybe a month and a half-ish, something like that. Yeah, I would say that's been there. And I'm going to do a giveaway a little later of 5 memberships to the channel. So if your settings, make sure your settings are set to where you can receive gifts. And then when we do that, YouTube just randomly picks 5. I have no say in it, but then you'll have a free month on the membership. So memberships are nice to help the channels, but there's a cost to that, and we keep it as low as we can. I know most of the true crime, paid memberships are pretty inexpensive, so I think that's good.
Yeah.
I got my temporary leg on Halloween.
I heard,
It was not a Halloween surprise. It was the real thing. And you want to hand that to me, Jenny? The leg? Because I was just thinking, I don't think you've seen it, have you, Lee?
I haven't. No.
Okay, we're going to see it.
Is it inappropriate to say break a leg before you do this?
Right? No, it's cool. It's
very cool.
This is the first go.
That's a heavy duty shoe on that sucker.
Yeah, that's a legit shoe. I just got new shoes from the VA, and this is the left one, but
nice.
But this thing is solid. I mean, seriously. Yeah. And this is clear plastic, and there's 2 different layers of things you put on to be able to get yourself ready to get in there. And then when that pin connects to the base, you hear a click, and it's good. And then,
how do you feel about being more mobile and stuff now?
Well, I wouldn't call it mobile. I can stand right now. So
gotcha.
It's a slow process.
Yeah.
But just the ability to be on the precipice of such things is very cool. So it feels like I'm on stilts, though. It feels really weird.
I'm sure. Yeah, I get a little vertigo, like, ooh, I'm up here high.
Yeah, it's just strange. And I haven't stood in over a year, so it's been weird. But yeah, and then eventually I'll work up to more and more time in it, and then when I'm ready, I guess it'll be taking steps and going out, and
people are feeding me. People are. I'm a pun kind of guy. People are. You have a leg up on the competition. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's coming out in the chat that's giving me puns. It's amazing.
Yeah, I like that. Words bloom, and I'm actually planning on using that. So we'll talk. I know that. But yeah, it's been quite the journey, and I'm in the middle of writing the book. I'm about 90% done.
Yeah.
I've got one more chapter to go to get me to current time in the story. And then I'm going to let it simmer for a little bit while I carry out the rest of the story. And I know there's a definitive end that I want to reach, like my goal in the story that I obviously keep to myself. But then at the end, the reader will know what that goal was and did I meet it. And I don't even know because it hasn't happened yet. So that's kind of neat how I think this is playing out, but it's really turning out good. So
nice.
So yeah,
real quick, I see a question. I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure I answer because this has been asked a lot recently of me, and I see one of our good followers for all three of us have asked how long I've been out of incarceration. My last day incarcerated in my entire lifetime was 2019. I've walked out and I've never had one issue since. I did get pulled over once walking down the street with my shirt off, and they wanted to question me about my prison tattoo work.
Wow.
And when they found out I was on parole and doing well, they left me alone. But so I guess now we can say I've been out for over 5 years, not one issue.
Awesome, dude.
No issues scheduled anytime soon. Unless people keep breaking Pete's legs, then maybe I'll have to get involved, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I could use this thing to bludgeon somebody. I'm telling you. But
hey, I have to ask, when you got stopped like that, did your heart race? Like, oh fuck, here we go again. Like, what are they gonna do to me now? Like, what is your reaction? Were you feeling like a normie? As like you're just like you're done with that world, or was there a part of you that thought, what the fuck is going to happen right now?
I thought I was going back to jail, and I was literally less than a half block away from the house where my wife was sitting with the dogs. I was coming back from a 7-Eleven after applying for a job. I was doing everything I could potentially do to follow my parole for the very first time in my life. Even though I had served all of my time plus an additional 15%, they gave me more parole for the state of Arizona on top of it that I had to complete. And I knew right off the bat from my parole officer, the day I met him after being released, he said, you are going to be harassed, so just expect to be violated and back in jail within a short period of time. So I knew when I was walking across the street and I saw a cop car coming in front of me, I heard the one coming from behind me. And I looked down and I realized I didn't have my shirt on. And I said, oh, yeah, we're going to jail. There's no doubt.
Right.
That sucks. But I'm glad
that's a good thing, dude. We've talked about this before. I mean, what a testament to perseverance to not go back, because the recidivism rate is off the charts. And so I applaud you. I mean, you've come a long way, and
I gotta tell people, like, the return rate to incarceration is very high, and I did it my entire life until finally being married to Jen and getting out this last time, married to the woman of my dreams, and she looked right at me and said, "You're done, right? You're done?" And I said, "I'm done. I'm married. I'm happy. We're moving forward." She said, "Okay, we can go pick out a puppy then, and we're going to move forward." And I said, "Let's do it." So
nice.
She stood by me
the entire
sentence.
And now you're an underwear model,
Yeah, now you're an underwear model. Yeah. Nice.
Yep. So I'm excited. I'm out here with everybody, and yep. So for everybody to know, I have surpassed my 5-year mark. It's kind of like rehab, where people get the chips for the years that they put into dedicated letting that stuff go and staying sober. Well, I'm staying prison sober. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Very
awesome.
cool.
That is really cool. So good to hear. And that's what, if you believe in rehabilitation, I mean, that there it is right there. There it is right there. All right, let's see here. I got a couple of notes. I want to make sure we're good. I know I told you guys I was going to have surgery this weekend or Friday. They had to bump that. Long story, but they'll get it rescheduled. I'll let you know when I'm going to be out. The merch, I got some new merch in there. If you want to see Santa in a Murder Metal Mayhem t-shirt throwing the horns up with his sleigh and his goats instead of reindeer, you got to go check it out because it's the hot new thing on the merchandise line with Santa Murder Metal Mayhem style. So it's pretty cool. So I thought that'd be fun for the holidays. You get grandma one. You could put it on a pillow. Grandma could sleep with it, whatever. All right. Thanks to the mods out there, Donna Lembo, Catherine S. If Catherine's here today, I don't know. And the Serial Killer Story Hour, that's Tuesday coming up here on, I think that's Veterans Day, 11/11 at 7 p.m. Central with the feature on the Texas case of Carla Faye Tucker, the one who killed 2 people with her boyfriend in 1983. And she ended up using a pickaxe on this dude and claimed that she orgasmed when she was killing the 2. So,
wow,
a messed up case. She was executed, and it was a big controversy because in prison she became like very religious and like headed like some big movement in prisons. It was pretty over the top story, but they wound up executing her, and it was in 1998. But I got the guy, one of the corrections officers on death row in that prison in Texas where she was executed. I got the guy. He's going to be on with me on Tuesday. So he's a friend of mine, and that's going to be cool to talk about what it was like, when Carla Faye got executed, because it was a big controversy, and I'm sure he will know firsthand what that was like. So it'll be cool.
Neat.
And like, subscribe, and comment. And if you get the hype points, I don't know exactly how the hype thing, I just know when I do it, I see that I have the ability and I just hype it, but when I'm looking at other people's videos. So, all right. Well, very good. Well, there was an Idaho 4 video from A.R. Hayes about BK's prison books and the money being put on them for his commissary. So, A.R., why don't you let us know what made you want to do that video and what your thoughts are on it in case anybody, missed it and hasn't seen it yet?
I think it's kind of split into 2 different conversations when I thought about this, and it got sparked to me through mainstream media's narrative. Of course, the people that have no idea what it's like actually to support someone that's innocent until proven guilty, but then even up and beyond that, family members that support their loved ones that are incarcerated. So, yeah, I did a version in regards to why Brian Coberger would, one, skip that restitution hearing. And I don't think a lot of people understand, one, you don't always get offered to go to the hearing. The courts decide that for you. His attorneys were not in attendance. They were all in different places via Zoom. So Brian Coberger waived his right to be there because it wasn't even really an argument that needed to be had. And Bill Thompson proved that at the end of the day by waiving it and then just saying, we're actually only here for the urns. I get it. I understand that, these victims' families should be whole. I do understand that. I do agree. But they've collected funds across the board of people willing to support them and make sure that they were able to get the things that they needed and to get to these hearings. And that's great. I think a $3,500 argument's a little ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. And then Hitler on top of that just made it even more ridiculous through his actions. But Brian Coberger 100% made the right decision if he was even asked to waive, and I explained the why, the hassle of what it's like coming out of a solitary confinement situation. You got to be shackled every time you step out of your cell. And a part of that shackling isn't just the fact you got to put on the cuffs and the leg irons. You got to go kneel on your knees and face the wall like you're being owned by somebody in your boxers, waiting for them to strip search you and just really make you feel like you're a nothing and a nobody. Then they walk you down to go put you in more cages all along the way. So you turn a 20-minute day at court into 8 hours of literally embarrassment for yourself. It's a hassle. It's tiring. So all these people that are claiming that he just bought the restitution or he didn't want to pay, that's not the case. That's all drama. That's a narrative being pushed to just tickle people's fancy. And it's frustrating for someone like myself. I lived years upon years doing exactly that, in and out of my cell, shackles to go to the shower, shackles to go to the rec yard, can't leave to eat my chow. If I want to call my wife on the phone, I got to be shackled, strip search to go 10 feet to the locked in phone so I can call my wife in my boxers, my shackles in front of everybody. They're catcalling me. I mean, it's a whole rant. I get it. It's a rant. But at the end of the day, for people in mainstream media to come out and say they want to see the list of people who donated money to Brian Coberger's books, okay, that's fine. You know what? I'll give you that. Just give me all the donations that the Gonzalez family got. Give me all the donations that Dylan Mortensen got. Give me every donation the University of Idaho got. Give me every donation that went into the fund to prosecute Brian Coberger. I want to see it all. Hey, Bill Thompson, I want to see what you charged as an hourly rate to prosecute this and then end up just bowing out and doing a plea bargain. Show me all the numbers. Don't just ask for Brian Coberger's, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen, Pete, Lee, that would be us that gets put on blast. That's not Brian Coberger. That's supporters that have made a legitimate decision of what they want to do with their own hard-earned money. I donated to Brian Coberger. I'll state it clear and freely to everybody. The man needed shampoo. He needed soap. He needed to be able to wash his butt while he was in jail. And I know what it's like to be there. His parents put money on his books to be able to make a phone call to mom. What is so wrong with that? What is so wrong with that we got to publicize?
No, I agree. I mean, if you're going to do it for one, you should do it for both, so, or don't do it at all,
Yeah, you had a plethora of really great points all together, and they're in different areas. One, for example, why Brian Coberger might show up. A lot of this stuff is procedural stuff. It's not necessary for Coberger to be in person. And like you pointed out, you don't understand, and you did a great job of explaining how much effort and time it takes to go to that 5-minute hearing. It's not worth it. And that's why you have the lawyers just take care of it. You don't need to do it yourself. You did an excellent job of explaining that kind of situation. You also explained how just a simple phone call is a major fucking ordeal if you're in that. Sorry, my language is rough. I've gotten a little bad, and I realize you guys don't swear as much as I do. I need to tone my stuff down when I'm with guests, but you did a fantastic job explaining this. And the other, again, not related, but that point was also excellent. For those who want to see the donor list, I'm one of them as well. I'm curious who's donating money, but I'm curious just like you are, not just for one side. Let's look at all sides. Where's the money coming from? I'd love to see where the money's coming from on all sides, but don't make it one and not the other. Let everybody see everything. Full transparency would be fantastic in this situation, in my opinion. But
yeah. Got a good question here along the lines of what you were just talking about, AR, if you don't mind. Donna Lembo, our moderator here, says, can they take all the money from his books? I know you and I were talking about this, but.
So anything and everything donated prior to his sentencing agreement with that plea bargain is free and clear. They can't touch a penny of it. They can never get restitution for money prior to the actual sentencing agreement that put that plea bargain into place. Now, anybody and everybody that sends money, and let me just explain this very easily for everybody. If you send $100 to Brian Coberger, he gets about $75 of it. They're going to take the 20% right off the bat. It's going to go into a fund that's going to cover the restitution of the 300-something thousand that's taken from them. Then they take a fee for you sending in money. That's the DOC. They take that fee for processing the money. So at the end of the day, he's going to get $75. But let's all hold on here, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, Steve Gonzalez and all of these victims' families are going to file civil suits against Brian Coberger on top of this. This restitution is not the end of it. There's more coming. The wrongful death civil suits, the pain and suffering for the families, they're going to get a huge amount of money for that. It's going to be into the millions of dollars. Guess what the greatest part of that is? They can't take a penny off of Brian Coberger's books towards that. Not a single penny off of his books in the penitentiary. So if you decide to support Brian Coberger, none of that money of yours covers that. But yes, some of your money is going to go to the restitution, both to the state and to the victims' families. So I always tell people, be very cautious in the way that you spend your money. When you are sending money to inmates, make sure you really value your money. You weigh it out how much you want to send at a time. Because if you send smaller increments, you lose less. I mean, there's a lot of ways that go into this. But Brian Coberger is going to figure it out when he gets behind bars. There's tricks in the trades to where money doesn't go to your books to pay the restitution. You get your money sent to other places that get you more commissary, more phone time, more things for the bang of your dollar. And guess what? You don't lose any towards your restitution. So if he makes a decision that he doesn't want to pay restitution, if he's going to buck this, I'll give him all the advice in the world on how to do it because I know the ins and the outs of it.
Well, that's very useful information here on the true crime discussion like this. But I really liked that video that you did. I thought that was a good one to bring up here first off.
Appreciate it.
I mean, you know, you brought up too the Gonzalez family and all the money they've received on top of Dylan and God knows who else. So yeah, I think that anybody that's profited from this, you know, how much did you know, these lawyers' hourly fee go up because they were part of this case? You know, there's a lot of things that you could say probably were ways they profited from it, you know. Now, the Idaho 4 video from Lee about the hypothesis that you came up with on the knife, dude, I thought that was really cool. I really liked the way you did that, very scientific, although dropping F-bombs like it was going out of style. But I love the way you do what you do. But it's just funny because, like you said, I don't do it here. But it's just funny when you're doing it, but you got your advisory thing on there. But, but what was it about? What was that? Maybe some of our viewers haven't seen that.
Well, I did 2 videos back to back, a lot focused on the possibility that Brent Kopacka was involved in it and about the knife sheath and about what could have happened that day. And like I said, I was proposing a hypothesis to partly explain the delay in the 911 call, which was that if the killer or killers went into the house and they realized after they got out and they thought they had a clean break and they were free and clear, they went, oh crap, we're missing the knife sheath. Where is this knife sheath kind of thing? And if, God forbid, one of the survivors in the house knew that hit was happening, could calls have taken place, text messages have taken place, asking to help try to find the knife sheath. Nobody wants to disturb the body. If the knife sheath literally is underneath the body of Maddie Mogen, was that part of the delay of the time frame? Is they knew they left the knife sheath there by accident. There was a huge, you know, like, we got to find the knife sheath. They're looking around, but nobody wants to disturb the bodies. Nobody wants to go in there kind of thing. This is, of course, assuming that some people aren't right, that this was a whole WITSEC operation and nobody actually died in the house. But the point being is that a lot of that was kind of just talking about that whole link about the knife sheath. I have questions still about the knife sheath. what was shown in the Idaho State Police documents. But that's mostly what it was. It was just talking about some of the hypothesis about what the delay of time would have been and whether that they were looking for the knife sheath and just couldn't find. There was evidence again in the state documents, or that Ann Taylor had brought on a forensics specialist that said that there was evidence of a cleanup at the scene. That there was evidence that there was more than one perpetrator. So were they looking for the knife sheath? Was that part of the cleanup? Did they step in some blood in their attempt to find the knife sheath, and then was like, crap, we got to wipe that up, and so there was a latent shoe print left because somebody stepped in blood and then tried to clean it up. So all of that stuff could explain the delay if they realized they screwed up somewhere and dropped the knife sheath and they're looking for it. But it was maybe it was all along underneath the body of Maddie Mogen and nobody wanted to disturb the body. So who knows? But
yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I think that the point you made about how the fact that it would have been underneath Maddie and covered in blood, and yet when they show the knife sheath in that video I watched, it looked pristine. It looked like it was right off the showroom floor and not in the garage or in a tool bag or in the trunk of the car for months.
I've seen knife sheaths at Walmart with more wear and tear on them and more DNA on it than that one. I mean, come on.
That was
so and to be fair, I agree with you. Like that knife sheath is troublesome with a capital T. We do know also that Moscow Police Department purchased a K-bar knife and knife sheath off of Amazon after they found out they wanted to kind of replicate the purchase process and how it would have been shipped. So we know they have an evidence, a knife sheath that they collected. And one of my first questions was, is there anything in the Idaho State forensics documents that proves definitively that the knife sheath they're showing isn't the replica with just some circle marks saying, here's where we collected samples off of this replica? Did they state clearly this is the knife sheath that was actually at the crime scene? Because it didn't make sense, the lack of blood. Now, real quick, to play devil's advocates, because that's what I do on my channel. I play devil's advocates. I even played devil's advocates with this. How could you explain a relatively pristine knife sheath at a horrific scene if it was under the body? The only thing I can say to play devil's advocates with my own question is, it's a matter of semantics. Does under the body possibly mean under the mattress, under the bed, where the body was Maddie's body, for example, on the bed laying on the mattress, and the knife sheath somehow had gotten kicked under the bed against the wall. Therefore, it got written down of the knife sheath was under Maddie's body, and we all hear under her body, meaning she's literally laying on it and drenching it in blood. But maybe it was just meaning under, as in like under a mattress, under the bed springs, under the floor, like kicked in the corner. Does that still constitute under her body? So that's the only way I can make sense of the lack of blood. There's nothing but fleck. What they circled on there was flecks of blood. And keep in mind, last point on my huge rant, they tested supposedly those blood flecks on the back of the knife sheath to 4 individuals and excluded them as contributors. I want to even know how they got to exclude 4 people from the flecks. They're almost impossible to see. And they're saying this is the blood sample. We excluded 4 people, including it would have been Brian Coberger excluded from those blood flecks as well. But anyways, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but lots of questions.
No, I agree with you, man. It makes no sense at all. I know, AR, you agree. A knife sheath on that bed. And I hear what you're saying about the under the bed thing. I can't see how that wouldn't have made a difference in the paperwork to refer to it being under the bed.
Well, they said laying to the right side on the bed. I mean, they did word it kind of differently in different documents. So I get what you're saying. In that room, it's very possible anything could fly anywhere and end up under the bed. I mean, that bed was a foot tall and a foot wide. I mean, come on.
Right.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, to really just narrow it down and stop so much questioning, just show when you've removed the body out of the bedroom, because they want to redact that. They want to retract all of that. They don't want to show the bodies. They don't remove the body out, because this is how they're going to get to that knife sheath as evidence. The body's gone. Now you're photographing the crime scene, the bed, the blood stains, the various things that they have to do after the body's out. You would see the knife sheath with the markers next to it in place of how it was found, because you have to show that to the jury. You have to show it.
AR, I'm so glad you brought this up. Here's the thing that drives me insane. Ann Taylor was making an argument that the evidence was planted. Now, I have maintained Ann Taylor wasn't necessarily going to say the knife sheath was planted. What she was going to say was the DNA was planted. And so here's the thing. The first pass of the crime scene, an officer didn't see the knife sheath. It was on the second pass. I think it might have been Detective Payne when he arrived, when he saw the knife sheath, allegedly. Here's the problem. Them blocking everyone in America from seeing the bodies under the pretext of we don't want to show the gory bodies or whatever means that the key piece of evidence the only key piece of evidence to put Coberger in the house is the knife sheath, and they will never show you the knife sheath in context of where it was. We'll never get to see it because they'll claim not going to show the body. The knife sheath was next to the body. We will never be allowed to see it because they blocked it and said, hey, the parents have said they don't want us to have their daughter's body shown on. And I get that. I get why you wouldn't want that. But it also blocks America on the very key piece of evidence. The one thing that supposedly places Coberger in the house, the single source DNA. We'll never get to see with our own eyes the knife sheath and where exactly it was and answer those questions because they'll say, can't see the photos, it's too graphic.
Yeah, that's solid, dude. Solid points, man. It's hard to argue with you. I know, I'm in lockstep with that. And here we got a good question point from Need Some Z's. Maddie's major injuries were to her chest and liver. If that sheath was under her right side, it would have been covered in blood, in my opinion. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
If I may, can I make a point? It goes along with what's stated right there, but this is kind of a thought process from somebody. Okay, my situation's a little different. I had to run in and attack somebody in the penitentiary, but it's the same concept. I'm coming into a room to do an attack. So I, in my mind, think I've got a weapon in one hand and I should have a free hand with the other hand because I got to be able to grab. I got to be able to push. But let's say I come in and I have to remove a knife sheath. So I got a knife in one hand and a knife sheath in the other. There is no possible way, none, that's not covered in blood. Because if it's in my hand during the struggle, I still have to use that hand to hold somebody down and to brace myself with the thrust, meaning my hand that I'm using to hold is the one with the knife sheath in the blood. Now, if I've decided I got to let go of that knife sheath for some reason, whether I place it, whether I throw it, whether it flies out of my hand for any reason, now it's in the very crime scene where the attack is happening, and blood does not stay in one place in that crime scene. It goes everywhere in that crime scene. I don't know how the photos don't dictate that blood would be all over that place.
Right.
And then in the midst of a stabbing, it's not pretty and it's not clean. But no matter where that knife sheath is at any point of that attack, whether it's in my hand, whether it's not in my hand, even if it's on a belt loop on my hip, it gets covered in blood. I don't care what people say. I've been through this. I've experienced it. And there's no way to not only keep yourself clean, you can't keep objects that you're utilizing in the midst of this happening clean. And that's not even after the fact of Maddie potentially bleeding out on it. Or what about the struggle with Kaylee? She had to have been all over that bed, all over it, fighting for her life.
And with an arterial wound at that, so you've got all that spray. I mean, those walls would have been painted red. I mean, that's why when I looked at those pictures, I thought, this is BS. I mean, I don't see.
I'm sorry to say, do you think Kaylee sat there and got her face bashed in and didn't move at all?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. She was not asleep, gentlemen. Neither was Maddie. This was a horrifically tragic event. And I'm not arguing that there's not potentially evidence there. There is. But the way they're explaining this knife sheath getting to the position that it's in the shape that it's in, is not possible.
Right.
Unless that sheath came in after the deed was done. Now you can set it somewhere and avoid getting all the extracurricular flying of blood and the holding of people down. that had to have come in after the fact. It couldn't have been there before, during.
And it's I hate to mention this, but it's super hard. Like, because people genuinely, or generally, that's the word I'm looking for, generally trust the law enforcement and don't think that they're lying. Most people think, you know, they're the good guys, right? But there's a possibility in this scenario that there was a knife sheath, and that knife sheath is long gone. And then later, Moscow Police Department, when they knew who they needed to place at the crime scene, but they couldn't place him at the crime scene, bought a knife sheath, planted evidence on it because they had his DNA, and then put it in evidence and said, this is the knife sheath from the crime scene, and figured nobody was going to ask any questions. Now, people think that's impossible. Law enforcement officers are not going to go to that level to put somebody, incriminate somebody that didn't do the crime because they have a hard on for the guy. Sorry, my language is horrendous. But the point being is that, you know, there's a lot of people just don't believe that's possible, but what I was saying is it is possible. That is a scenario that is possible. You can work the logic through that says the knife sheath that we saw is not the actual knife sheath, because like you say, that knife sheath should be drenched in blood. Everybody knows it. So the knife sheath showing us pristine. There's a reason to ask, is that even really the knife sheath? And the only way to know it's the knife sheath is show us the original crime scene photo of the body and the knife sheath in the picture, so we can see it in reference and go, oh, that explains why it's not covered in blood or whatever. And because we'll never see that, you're going to have these kind of questions. Is it even the same knife sheath? So
very, very interesting. Yeah, I agree, guys. It's and even if you're willing to suspend belief about the sheath not being bloodied, even if we're going to play that game, the fact that there was a speck of a speck of a speck left on that button snap, and they got Coberger that way, is highly suspicious. Police officer I interviewed said, you send the entire sheath in to be analyzed. You don't try to extract it off a button snap, especially if there's that little there. You would be degrading the sample by taking it off of the snap in a field environment and not in a lab environment. I mentioned before, I used to do environmental sampling for my job. And if we had a material that was multi-layered, that we were unable to separate the layers in the field, we sent the entire thing to the lab to let them do that in their lab conditions versus trying to do it in the field. And I can only imagine this would probably be even more, perilous to try to do that without being in that controlled environment.
And I will say, I pointed out in the kind of, there was a recent release of Idaho State forensics files, over 2,000 pages that were sent that had the pictures of the knife sheath. And I showed the evidence list where, thank God, we do have things called chain of custody for a reason, because you need to document who touched this at what point. And what did they say in there? There was 3 major packages of evidence that said, hey, when I got this in evidence, the crime scene tape was removed. So I went ahead and put it back on and signed it. When this came in, it didn't have an initial on it. So I just went ahead and initialed it. They actually document that there are major parts that it contain extracted DNA from the crime scene that came in improperly done, either missing an evidence seal or an evidence seal that wasn't signed, indicating that somebody put a blank seal on top of it to make it look like it had been tampered with. And people are just acting like that's a no, never mind. Even Hitler said I have problems with the way the evidence was handled in this case. When you've got potentially the piece of evidence, the piece of DNA evidence that incriminates Brian Coberger, the only single source DNA, if that was in one of those 3 packages that have been resealed or didn't have the proper evidence tape, no wonder Ann Taylor said, I have reason to believe that DNA was planted, because the evidence was tampered with. Somebody decided they knew who it was and they needed to place him at the scene.
At the end of the day, you two probably know better about my questions answered than I do. Did the defense team have the ability to have any of their experts test anything for DNA that supposedly the state had DNA-wise? Did the defense get the opportunity to get that sheath and send it to their own experts for DNA analysis?
I believe the answer is no. I believe the answer is that it was such a small amount of quantity of DNA that they basically destroyed the sample in the process of testing. Therefore, there was nothing left for them to independently test.
So that should throw that DNA out.
Yeah, because you can't duplicate it.
because the defense team can't have their own defense experts and their own analysis of a key piece of evidence in a case. Trust me, I know people are shaking their head. No, that's not the way. I had 2 cases thrown out in Phoenix, Arizona over DNA that my defense team could not test because we could not get to a common ground agreement point that the testing done by the prosecution and the experts on the prosecution side was done correctly and came up with the results they were stating they had. We wanted our own shot.
And it's worse than that, because not only, in my opinion, did Ann Taylor's defense team not have the ability to test the DNA for themselves, but when they said, look, you can't test it on your own because whatever, it's been destroyed, it's too small a sample, they rejected the defense's request to see, how did you develop it to Coberger? We want to see the data. How did you get it to Coberger? And they said, sorry, we don't have to give that information. That's law enforcement secrets. Bullshit. As Ann Taylor was saying, a defendant has the right to question the evidence against him. That them hiding from the defense how they got his name on that DNA is horseshit. You have the right to challenge the evidence against you. So them not being able to test it, them not being able to challenge how they got it to Coberger, all of that is a sham. It's a bullshit trial. It was not a failed trial from the very beginning. They should have had the right. He has every right to challenge the evidence put against him, including, how did you get my name off that piece of DNA?
Yeah, you were talking, DA, about in one of your videos I just watched about the issues surrounding, how they got to Coberger, and they came up with the 4 brothers in Pennsylvania. You want to talk about that for a moment? Because I wasn't really familiar with that. I was pretty stunned. I know I haven't been as plugged in with Idaho 4 as I used to be, but really, like I said, learning a lot of info this weekend about things. So what was the deal?
Yeah, literally the first I stumbled upon this in its entirety was at CrimeCon, Aurora, Colorado. I actually went there to CrimeCon, and that whole CrimeCon convention that they have yearly was basically a testament to Othram Labs. And they got up on stage, and Kristen Middleman, one of the founders of Othram Labs, said, we had Brian Coberger in 5 days, which I was like, that's horseshit. That's not the official story. So I don't know how you think. First of all, Othram Labs didn't get Brian Coberger. And she then later on said, we developed the profile from the sample that we were given by Idaho State Police. We developed it to 4 brothers in Pennsylvania, and that's how we got to Coberger. And there was a huge round of applause from the audience. They're so proud. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Sorry, I'm not going to drop the word. I was like, those 4 brothers, none of them had the last name Coberger. They admitted they traced the DNA not to Coberger, but to 4 brothers that have some kind of tie to Pennsylvania. If you read carefully through the documents, what they say is they worked up the family tree from those 4 brothers in Pennsylvania, then moved across genetically to somehow and came back down to Coberger. What that tells you is this. All of us have common ancestors if you go far enough the family tree. They knew they wanted Coberger, but they couldn't get to him. So what they did is they took the 4 brothers that weren't Coberger or anywhere related to his family and moved up the family tree long enough until they had a common ancestor they could branch over to somebody that married somebody in Coberger's family, and then came back down to Coberger, who they wanted, and said, we're not going to show you how we got there. Just trust us. The 4 brothers eventually led to Coberger. And if you watch what they say, they moved up the family tree, across, and back down to Coberger because they already knew who they wanted. They just needed to make a connection, and they don't want to show that in court, because if you showed it to a jury and we were able to have the defense to challenge it, a lot of people in the jury would have said, that's horseshit. You could have done that with anybody. You could have made that connection to anybody.
That's unbelievable. And in a death penalty case at that. I mean, this whole case has just soured me on any real faith in the justice system across the board, because I mean, we hear about these cases that get in the media, and I know AR's talked about this before, of cases like this that happen every day. And I think that, the amount of people that are done this way, so to speak, is a lot higher than we'd like to admit. And to think that any one of us could end up in that situation. When I say us, I mean everybody watching, everybody on the replay, everybody. This could happen to any of us, and that's friggin' scary. I mean, touch DNA has absolutely no business being in a courtroom. It's way too flaky. It's way too ambiguous. And the fact that I could touch something that somebody else touched, that somebody else touched, that somebody else touched, and that thing being in an apartment somewhere and my DNA being on it is very scary, because you could, as we well know, you could be linked to an object in a house or in a scene, and you never were even there. Not even
and the scary,
in that
the scary, right. And the scary part is that we are more and more getting into genetics. We're more and more getting into everybody in America voluntarily submitting their data to 23andMe and Ancestry because we want to find out where we came from and who our ancestors are. And people are making a massive database on everyone in America. And you're allowing yourself, essentially, if you don't trust law enforcement, they've got your DNA to put you at any scene they want to. So now all of a sudden we're in a situation in America where they can make a connection to you, anyone in America, if they suspect that you're the one. And again, this is what bothers me. A lot of people have the belief that science is science, but juries don't understand the science. They don't understand genome sequencing. They don't understand SDR and SNP profiles and how it works. They just get told a bunch of scientific mumbo jumbo until they check out and say, you know what? If you tell me it's good, it's good. And so if we're going to start convicting people on DNA evidence by saying, hey, trust us, I know you can't follow it. It's supposed to be a conviction of jury of your peers, but your peers don't understand the science. But now we're getting to a point where we're saying, trust us. It's the guy, you're not going to be able to follow it. Just trust us. And then they just go, okay, whatever. It's science. So it has to be that guy. It's to me, it's scary where we're moving in this country. But,
well, and you've got to add on top of that, gentlemen, and I'm going to kind of scoot in a little bit of a different direction because I understand exactly what you're saying as being one of the most devastating parts of trying to defend yourself in a case. But now you have to transition to what we all watched in that very courtroom happening. And I, as an ex-defendant, I should have caught on to it right away when Ann Taylor was literally telling the court, I will not be ready for this by the time this has to go to trial. I have not been able to sift through the evidence. I have not, and the judge wants to put her on blast because she is an attorney, has other cases. Well, that's what attorneys do. And what do you think happens with public defenders? Are you going to blast every single public defender that's got 95,000 cases on their plate? They can't focus heart and soul on one. Yeah. Brian Coberger's lead attorney said, Your Honor, I need an extension of time to be able to properly defend my client. And he said, hell no, we're going to rush this to trial. If people want to know exactly why this kid could have potentially pled out prior to taking this to trial, you plead out when you know you've lost and you have no opportunity to win, especially with the death penalty tied to that. And I had to revert back to sitting in jail because when you sit in jail, unfortunately, everybody sitting in that jail wants to tell you about their cases. They all want to talk their case. And they all ask you, especially when you've been through the system a lot, what am I looking at? What's going to happen to me? It's like, dude, go eat your lunch. Shut up. I don't want to talk about your case. But it always happens when it comes down to the moment of truth. You're getting ready to go to trial. It's right around the corner. And your attorney looks you dead in the eye and says, look, if we take this to trial and we do not win, you're guaranteed the max punishment. You will get nothing less than the max parameters of this. So if you're facing the death penalty in a state that looks like they want to amp up the death penalty and rush it, they're already building the chamber to shoot you. You can feel the pressure because, trust me, Mom and Dad Coberger watched everything happening in public on every narrative broadcast across this world. And they talked to their son about it. And they said, son, you're potentially going to lose your life to the state of Idaho. Mm-hmm. He had to have a very serious conversation. I'm telling you.
There's a scenario in which, again, I want to get back to the Ann Taylor and the saying she didn't have enough time to review the discovery. I want to mention that that's what I started to say, but you're right. At the end of the day, there's a discussion that said, I think, Brian Coberger's mother would like her son. And if her son behind bars is better than her son dead. So at the end of the day, if she's convinced he will not get a fair trial and they will execute him unless he takes the plea deal, she probably begged her son, take the frickin' plea deal so I can at least have my son. I can visit you. I can talk to you. There's something we can have as a life, because they're going to kill you if you don't plead guilty. You're going to lose this case, and it's not fair. But I want to point out to the discovery thing one more time. Ann Taylor, merely days, I believe, days before the sentencing plea, had just told Hippler, we have not had enough time. We're not ready for trial. She had just told him, and he said, we're going forward anyways at the plea deal. And I challenge anybody to watch me this. I was in the courtroom when it happened. I challenge you to go back and watch the tape. When they're reading through the plea to Brian Coberger, they have to agree to every part of that plea deal. Did you do this? Is anybody forcing you to say that you did it? And one of the questions Hippler asked, and I shit you not, you can watch it on tape. Hippler almost smiles and can't say it with a straight face when he says to Ann Taylor, and did you have enough time to review the discovery? And he's smiling when he says it because he knows she just told him she's not ready for trial. And she rolls her eyes, pauses, and says, yes, Your Honor. The whole thing's a joke. Hippler knew it was a joke. She was not prepared for trial. She just told him she wasn't prepared for trial. But part of the stipulation is you have to agree to the terms of the stipulation, which is that we're not being rushed here. We had every chance to do it. And so he couldn't keep a straight face when asking her if she had enough time. And she couldn't keep a straight face when she agreed, yes, we had enough time, because they had to agree, because that's the only way to save Brian Coberger's life, because they were going to execute him if he didn't sign the deal. So watch it yourself if you think I'm making that up. It's a telling moment when how the judge said it, and Ann's reaction to, did you have enough time to prepare for trial? It's a joke.
Wow. But I didn't want to let this one go here. We had a comment from Words Bloom. She's a member here at the channel, but she asked or mentions the Lucas Anderson case that proves that touch DNA can frame an innocent person. And just briefly, I did a video on this. So if you search Murder Metal Mayhem Lucas Anderson, and it's Lukis, so it's an odd spelling of Lucas. But anyway, he is a neighborhood drunk. He got in a fight in a liquor store or convenience store or something, and the EMTs had to be called because he was like, got to go to the drunk tank. So they took him out of there. And then later on the other end of town, this very wealthy man is attacked, and he's found dead on the floor of his mansion. And the EMTs get called, and they go out there, and they find the detectives go out there and they swab the guy's fingernails, and they find the DNA of Lucas Anderson under this man's fingernails. And they're like, what the hell? Because once he gets an attorney, a public defender, the public defender looks at the dates and he's like, wait a minute, you were in the drunk tank. You couldn't have done this. And so then they go ahead and try to figure out how it happened. And what it was the EMTs that showed up at the liquor store to clean up the mess, the blood. And then they were the same EMTs at the guy's house later. They didn't clean their pulsometer or whatever they call that thing that goes on your finger. So there was DNA inside there, and it got transferred from Lucas to this man's fingernails. And that's how they got him off of it. But he didn't do it. And it was just an amazing job by that public defender. But that's a crazy one. And, I'm sure there's others. I mean, I'm sure there's
and Pete, that's amazing, because I love that story that the EMTs transferred the DNA to another crime scene, and someone like Hippler would have said, I'm sorry, but DNA is DNA every day of the week and twice on Sunday. This guy's guilty. His DNA is at the crime scene. How can you explain it? And that's what people did with Coberger too. Single source piece of DNA, the size of picograms or whatever, like so freaking small you can't see with the human eyes. And they're like, well, he did it. His DNA is at the scene. And yet you just gave a perfect example that there's other ways DNA gets at the scene. That case was nuts, but it's a perfect example of there's ways that it get there. But we're getting to this place in this country where we convict people because the science says you were there, so you must be there, instead of challenging, well, how did it get there? But
well, I think we're also getting to a place in this country we're finding people guilty without even offering them the opportunity to defend themselves. If you're not ready for trial and your lead attorney steps to the judge and says, hey, look, Your Honor, I need some more time, that should be granted. I hate to say it, but do you understand Brian Coberger is the one sitting in jail? Like, he's not going anywhere. He's not roughing anybody up. And yeah, it costs a little bit of money to have him sitting in jail, but don't you want the case to be handled correctly, the evidence to be understood, everything to play out? I mean, hell, you might have ended up at the same place. Maybe there's still a plea bargain. Maybe he's found guilty at trial. But you don't have all the questions when you have if that's my attorney stepping up to my judge and saying, Your Honor, I'm not ready, and my judge tells me I'm going to trial, I am screaming at the top of my lungs, F you, F every. I'm going to create a disruption in that courtroom to get a continuance on my case. We're getting one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like this comment here from our friend Estes Crime Maze. He says, cool shirt, Pete, and hilarious. Yes, it is. The Deathany shirt. This is my own design with the two girls from the University of Idaho. And AI was very helpful because I can't draw a damn thing. And even got myself a Deathany mug. But on the Murder Metal Mayhem merch page on tpublic.com, we got all kinds of great designs. But I got a wanted poster, or I've got a wanted poster with Coberger on it, and got all kinds of stuff on there. So go check it out. And I got some great Murder Metal Mayhem stuff. I got the Santa thing. We got that all going on. We've had a really steady, good crowd here. It's actually was going up there for a while. I really was digging on that. But they got a sale going on this weekend, 35% off everything, the whole site, not just the Murder Metal Mayhem stuff. They had great shirts and all kinds of merch, but go there and check it out. I've got the link to that in the description, so you can go right to it. I'll throw it up here right now while I'm talking, but oh no, wrong one. Sorry. Just tpublic.com/user/Murder Metal Mayhem. I need to update the website because the website can get a direct link to this. I've just been lazy and I've been busy and I've been writing the book and a lot of things are going on. But I want to give away some memberships here. So get yourselves ready. Let's see if I can do it and make sure I got memberships to do. Pretty sure I do. I'll tell you here in a second. Okay, I can send 5 now. Here we go. And we'll know who got them here in a second.
I wonder if they'll give me one.
I don't know. They might.
I don't know. I don't get free stuff much anymore.
We got Godlike TG got one. Blue Rain 60. Tell Us What. And Janice. Let's see.
Got one of my dogs back here huffing and puffing at me like I'm doing something crazy in life, and I'm just looking at her like, roll over on your own, girl. I mean, you can roll over by yourself, I promise.
That's funny. Amos Noir. Oh, wow. You guys are killing me with the pronunciations. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Very cool, though. That's awesome. Awesome to see people getting some good free stuff. So I appreciate you guys. I wanted to give those. They give us 10 of those that we can use. They give 10 of those that we can use for our channels. And so I try to give out in the beginning of the month so I don't forget. But let's see here. We've got an hour in. We usually cut these off at an hour and a half. So we're coming up on that half hour here. So let's see.
I think that's his QDA. He wants me to run, and you guys go ahead and finalize it.
I was thinking he was cutting me loose.
He's like, get rid of the big talkers so we can wrap this.
No, I was going to go ahead and leave and let you guys finish. No, I'm just kidding. Idaho 4, a video leak that I did about Corporal Payne and questions surrounding why the MPD put him on a case as big as that. And my viewer had said, what if Payne was patsied, made a patsy as well on the law enforcement side? And it made me think about that. Like, it is kind of convenient, like here's this guy. He's only got 2 years or 3 years on the force at the time this happened. Never, ever investigated a murder. I mean, the only thing he was probably doing was, pulling over drunk drivers or, investigating a stolen pack of gum or something. So he didn't know anything about anything even close to this. And I just don't understand why the Idaho State Police didn't step in and say, look, there's nobody here at the local level that can handle this. We need to put somebody and make it happen.
I've got a lot of thoughts on that. And I don't want to,
because I don't understand.
So I'm trying to figure out how to really, there's so much to this. Payne, people don't widely know that Payne was in the same combat division as Brent Kopacka in the same 82nd Airborne, right? Now, I don't think they served at the same time. So let's be 100% clear about this. But one of the things that came up too is Payne, I believe, was an MP, so a military police inside there as well. And so to some people, to play devil's advocates with our own question, why do you put Payne in charge of this when he was a new cop? He wasn't necessarily as new as people think because he did have MP experience. But still, to the extent of the question is, why was this guy so quickly promoted to be a lead of investigation in one of the biggest trials that it was ever going to hit? And I think even early on, they knew this was going to be huge. How do you not have 4 slaughtered college students on a university campus and know that that's not going to be an enormous thing? One of the questions I've had before was, I have reason to believe, I won't go into it all here on this show, I have reason to believe Brent Kopacka was already on their radar. They already knew who he was. Coberger may have already been on their radar. Before the murders even happened, they could have been on their radar. And if that's the case, is that part of the reason why Payne got promoted to lead detective? Is Kopacka was an 82nd Airborne. He was in the same exact combat team as Kopacka. So maybe they're thinking to themselves, look, this is a knife crime done by a guy that was trained in knife fighting and in the same division as this guy. This guy knows more, Brett Payne, than anybody else on this case to be the lead detective. So is that part of what was the impetus of making Payne the lead? Is because they're like, look, you more than anybody would know about knife fighting skills, about the things that were required to do what they did in 8 minutes. We're going to put you in charge of it. So I don't know that that's the case, but it is one of the big glaring questions in this case is, why was Payne chosen with relatively low law enforcement experience to be the lead of the biggest case Moscow PD has ever seen?
Yeah, if anybody's got a military police background and wants to voice their opinion here, but I know when I was in basic, which was fall of 91, we were the last basic training class to be trained with bayonets. So what the thought process was that we don't fight hand to hand like that anymore. And there's no sense in training. If you got to be that close to get somebody with a bayonet, you're done. I mean, like that doesn't happen. So I would assume that the same would go for cops, knife fighting. I don't know if that, was he put through a class that would have maybe made him more aware of how to defend yourself with a knife? As an officer, no. But I did look up and I did have a video where I showed the field manual for how they're trained in that particular combat unit. And they have 2 weeks of classes on knife fighting. And again, there's a difference between bayonet fighting, which is a fixed blade on an end of a weapon, like a rifle, and hand-to-hand knife fighting, which is a loose knife in your hand. So they're trained with, and I went through the breakdown. They're taught how to rush. Like, let me explain. There's just a quick example. I did a whole thing on this. Combatives is what my video is called. It's called combatives. In boxing, you're taught to stay at a distance and keep your opponent away from you so that you don't get struck.
in knife fighting, that fight's going to end fast and someone's going to die. So you're taught to rush the person, slam them against the wall, take them out as quickly as possible. Everything about knife fighting is except the fact that you're going to get injured and you're going to take them out as quickly as possible. You go for major arteries, you slam them against the wall. A lot of the stuff that we say happened in that crime sounds like somebody trained in knife fighting. We heard about a big loud thump against the wall. We heard that people were cut in the femoral artery. And so it leads to the idea that somebody that was trained in knife fighting. Now you can go down the somebody in prison again, because maybe A.R. Hayes can talk about this as well. You're going to learn some of those same knife fighting techniques probably in prison too. How to take somebody's femoral artery out quick, cut them as close as you can to the groin to make them bleed out as quickly as possible. So the idea is that those knife fighting techniques were taught, and they're taught how to dispatch people as quickly as possible. So anyways, I think all of that really spoke to is because where I'm going with the whole boxing thing is everybody says, well, Brian Coberger was a boxer. He went to a gym for exercise. That means he was trained to be in combat. It's a completely different style of combat, people. Boxing, you keep your opponent at a distance and you strike from a distance. Knife fighting, you're taught to close and take them out super quickly. So I always argued that somebody trained in knife fighting was a much more likely person than a boxer. And I don't think even Coberger was a boxer. I think he went to a gym for exercise to lose weight. I don't think he was going there to learn how to box people in a ring.
First, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't care what type of fighting Brian Coberger is doing in front of me. I'd whoop his ass in all of it. It wouldn't matter. No matter. Okay, he went and got some boxing training. I got prison fighting training. He couldn't have matched up. There's just no chance. He couldn't handle 4 people. But to kind of tackle the idea of Brett Payne, leading the investigation. I don't feel as though he was ever in charge of the investigation, ever. He was a yes, sir boy that signed his name to some warrants that other people wrote to go get. He was led by the people that were actually investigating, and Brett Payne didn't have the experience or the knowledge to question any of it. So that's why they would put him in that position, because they don't want the hassle of this kid digging into why they're doing what they're doing when they're doing shady shit. Excuse my language, but they're doing a piss poor investigation, and the FBI's knee deep in that in the very same building. And he doesn't even have the respect to somebody walking to his office door to talk to him about something. It's done via email or text message. That shows me no respect for Payne. None. He didn't have knowledge, because he wasn't leading anything. He was coattailing it the entire time.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
It seems odd, but very good points, guys. Very good points. Jay Ray commented here, fall of 1991, Pete was in basic training and I was in utero. So thanks, man. I had when I was playing in low 12, we were doing a bar show somewhere up by Chicago, and this guy comes up to me, and I don't know how old he was. He was in a bar, so he was, at least drinking age. And he's like, hey, man, he goes, I started playing bass because of you. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, dude, And he's talking to me about basses and stuff. And he said that, man, I came to see you the first time I was in junior high school. You guys were playing some show over at the so-and-so. And I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, man, talking about make me feel ancient. Right? This guy in the bar seen me when he was in junior high, but
that's hilarious.
But we were together for 18 years. So
when I was 18, I tried to get into the military. I went down. I talked with all the different branches. I was following in line. My father was in the Navy for years upon years, worked on the subs out at sea, and I had just gotten arrested for a major felony case, and one of the options was, if you get into the military, we'll defer this whole thing against you, allow you to go serve your time in the military, and if you come back and you don't have any issues, we'll let these felonies go. I thought it was a great idea until I went to court in front of the judge. He goes, this would be a good idea except for the 32 felonies you had prior to this one. And I said, oh, yeah, the juvenile record's catching up to me. And they denied me. I couldn't get in. But it was like,
yeah, we had a couple of guys. We had a couple of guys that had that deal, AR, that were there instead of going to jail.
Yeah, I was all about it. I mean, I was facing substantial prison time, and I thought it was a good way to potentially turn my life around, because I had been a troublemaker since very young in life. I didn't really have any direction. Yeah, I'd gone to college, had already dropped out of that. I'd picked up more felonies, obviously, why I was even engaging the idea of this type of deal. And I still remember talking to my mom about it, because her and my dad were divorced. My mom says, "You're not going to make it in the military." I said, "I can do anything. Like, I'm strong." She said, "No, you just won't take an order from anybody. Like, you're not going to make it in the military. They're either going to beat the shit out of you and kill you, or they're going to send you home with a dishonorable." I said, "Well, that's better in prison, isn't it?"
It's funny. It's funny you tell that story, and I know, Pete, you served in the military, right? It's funny you mentioned this story, because I don't have a disrespect for the military. I also don't have military worship like a lot of people do. Like, if you serve in the military, you're somehow have to accept that they're better human beings than the rest of us. And it's funny you mentioned something, AR, because I can't tell you, when I was in high school, I knew several people that avoided jail time by going to it was part of the deal. Like, they had done something horrible, and it's like, look, we'll forget that you did something horrible if you go sign up for the service. And so, does that mean the person is such a great super person? Like, maybe they were a bad person and avoided some jail time to sign up for jail. So what I'm saying about that is no disrespect to the military, because it's not meant to be that. But I'm just saying is the hero worship we have in this country sometimes, that if you're a soldier, that means you're the most utmost human being, isn't always the case. Sometimes criminals go into the military to avoid prisons. So,
David
to avoid
Berkowitz, Ted Bundy. Yeah, we could go through the list.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's offered, you got to think about it. If someone like myself, sitting there at the age of 18, I have on one side of things a judge telling me I'm facing 30 years in the penitentiary, and on the other side of the things, I have the different military branches saying, "We'll give you $50,000 to go to college. We'll give you this, we'll give you that, and then we'll get you out of that sentence." And I'm like, "Oh, I think I could do this. How long do I have to serve for? 3 years? Okay, I'll do that."
Right.
And to be fair, that might actually turn people around. That to be fair, that might actually make the difference of turning somebody around. But it doesn't mean necessarily that they're a great person to start with.
It would not have changed me around. I'll tell you right now, it would not have changed me around, because at basic training, I would have either gotten beat up by somebody or I would have beat somebody up. That's just where I was in life. You were not going to direct me and tell me what to do. I mean, at that point, God and my mom couldn't tell me what to do. I didn't hear anything. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So if you want to put me in a situation now, you're putting, and at that time it was the violent side of me. You want to give me a gun and put me in this training to use this gun? Oh, heck yeah, I'll spend a couple of months here and we'll see what happens,
Yeah, that's why the Army has you lock them up at the end of the time you use them, where the Marines, you like sleep with the damn thing.
Yeah, I would have been sleeping with it out in the woods while they tried to track me from running away.
Well, the field is different, but in the rear and back at the homestand, you turn them in at the supply room, so you're not handling all those weapons. But yeah, it definitely was a life-changing experience, and I joined in the middle of Desert Storm. So the war was going on when I signed up, so that was a little hairy. But thankfully, the war was over by the time I got done with my advanced training, so I didn't have to go. None of us. We were all supposed to go to Kuwait, and then they changed it the last minute. We stayed in the U.S., so I missed all that. But let's see what else we got here. Oh, I want to give away some stickers. I've got 3. I'll give a couple to each, so 2 each of our cool stickers with the barbed wire on them. These are really badass. Put that on the back of your car, dropping your kid off for school. You see that Murder Metal Mayhem on there with some blood spatter.
Think about that, DA. He must like the community more than you and I, because I haven't got a sticker, and I bet you haven't got a sticker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. I don't know.
I've been a big supporter of Pete a long time. I haven't got a damn sticker yet.
The first,
I wear it right here.
I'll send you a sticker, buddy. The first 3 to get the answer right get the sticker. The only thing I request is in the U.S., please. It saves on postage and all that. So here we go. What kind of car did Brian Coberger supposedly drive there when he was in Pullman, Washington? What kind of car did he drive? See if we can get 3 people. If I can't make it any simpler, I don't know what to do. Come on now. What kind of car did Coberger drive? An Elantra, very good.
See, they got extra credit. They went not just the make and model, but they went the year even.
Yeah, so we got 3, the first 3. Okay, so we're good. So we got Just a Devil Woman, got it. Dachshundator, got it. And
there's one before that, I think, too.
And his car was tan, right?
Tan.
Oh, I heard it was green, actually.
I think it's this. Hope I'm right. A Little Blue 222. Go ahead, you 3, email me at pete@murdermetalmayhem.com and put in the subject line, I want a sticker, and put your snail mail on there, and shoot me an email, and I'll send you a couple stickers. So how about that? All right, what's the time looking like here? All right, we got about 10 minutes left here, guys. We get some, anybody got anything they want to talk about? Any questions? Here, Lisa B says the G's wanted money for accommodation, meals, missed salaries, therapy, fuel. I hate that they refused people's offers and then went for the GoFundMe money instead. Yeah, I mean, the GoFundMe stuff is cool for certain things, in my opinion. Sudden medical expenses, somebody's passed and they didn't have any insurance, those kinds of instances. That's a completely different situation. But I mean, I got a friend. I don't know. I loosely use the word friend, and he's not on here, so I don't have to worry about getting them all in a tussle. But this dude, like, he lives in Chicago, and he's complaining constantly about the noise in the city of Chicago. So like, people are on the like, dude, then move out to where there's freaking cornfields. You're not far from it. And then miraculously, the noise just goes away, And so instead of doing that, he's got like a GoFundMe to hire an attorney to try to get this guy to put some sort of sound deadening shit in his wall. I mean, it's so ridiculous, So
yeah.
Sometimes they don't make any sense. They just don't make any sense.
I mean, I have to say our community, and I want to say all 3 of our channels and everybody that intertwines in supporting of all of us. I put up a GoFundMe to help with my medical situation that I've endured this for over a year, and I was blessed more than you could ever believe. Whether it be $1, $10, $5, it all added up. It literally helped my wife be able to handle everything negative going on, because she had to put up with me in the first place, but the additional having to work extra hours to try to pay the copay or for this type of medication. And there are individuals in our community that stepped up to the plate, blessed us more than you could ever. I'll never forget it. I can't be thankful as much as I should be. I appreciate it, but I should appreciate it even more. And that's one thing that's dedicated me to trying to help as many others around me that I possibly can. It might not be financial that I'm able to do that, but just any way possible I can, because it was an eye-opener for me, the love and the support. And Pete, I remember when you began the whole train of bad health. I don't know why you had to begin this, but you and I built a really big bond through that endeavor. And then in return, it's just a friendship that I can't be more thankful for having, whether we work together on YouTube or don't or what. It's a friendship that was built, and it wasn't financially built. And that's why I see so much happening with these GoFundMes. And I get the fact that some of these people are not utilizing it in the correct manner. I get that. It's not up to me to question that. I just, I tend to just focus on what I can do better and how I can help other people and bless them. And I stand by my rant, my rave over the fact that people want to tear apart those that support Brian Coberger financially through his tough time or his family. And, we don't jump up and down and scream about, oh, you donated $10 to a victim's family, because that's your business. If you want to do that, great, great. It's just sad to see I've seen some instances where you have to shake your head and you just wonder, why do people go to this lengths, especially when it changes people's lives like it did mine and my wife's. We can't be thankful in the manner that we should be, because it people blessed us so much. It changed our life. It practically saved mine. But it changed my wife's, which changes mine. And that's why it's like, I'm so proud of our community across the board, proud of our community, and thankful for it and blessed.
Yeah, I remember when I was in the hospital all that time and a guy sent me a check for a pretty decent amount of money. I was really shocked, very thankful for it. And because I hadn't worked. I still haven't worked in almost 2 years. So, it was, needless to say, a little bit of a shock to the system. But this guy sent me that money, and I got home, and as pitiful as it was a plumbing leak that I had to deal with on day one of coming home from the hospital. And I was like, man, this sucks, like coming home to this, and then we even have the money. And thankfully, the amount that the guy gave me was like $5 more than what it ended up costing me. So I was extremely thankful that this guy sent me that, but it was a cool thing for people to do. And yeah, it's very, very nice, but yeah, like anything, they can abuse it. I saw Tim here, Tim McGrath from Annette Island, Alaska. So that's cool. I bet that's beautiful up there. My dad fishes in Alaska every May. He goes up there for halibut. So
my favorite place in the entire United States is Ketchikan, Alaska. A beautiful little island. I love it. Love it. I love it. And somebody asked about the YouTube couple that were shot out here in Vegas by the other YouTube. He's still going through the court process. He's trying to raise money for lawyers. And I know that Nevada is going to be seeking the death penalty against him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Robin Lynn asking me how the book's coming along. Very good, Robin. I'm about 90% done with the rough draft. And so things are moving along at a good speed. My friend is working on the cover. And so it's taking shape. And you'll be hearing about a new channel I'm going to be working on. I'm going to announce it here very soon, but I'm going to tease it now, that I'm going to create for my experience dealing with this medical fiasco, from necrotizing fasciitis to double amputations on my left leg to MRSA to everything in between for the last year and a half plus. But I'm writing a book called At Death's Door, and I'm going to do a new YouTube channel where I'm going to read the chapters of the book. When the book comes out, I'm going to release it chapter by chapter, at first in audio form, with kind of the same style I did my short stories here on this channel. So if you like that kind of thing, you want to be supportive of my story, and hopefully we can help others with this new channel that have had, crazy things happen, where I'll read their stories on the channel and get, whether it be support, helping them out, people visiting them at the hospital, whatever we can do. I think it'd be super cool. So I appreciate the people behind the scenes that have been poking me that way, but I'm not going to give up on this one. I'm going to do both, but I'm just saying I'm going to have another channel very soon that I'm going to unleash with that stuff going on. So that's what's up with the book and everything. All right. Okay. Well, we are right at an hour and a half. Great to see you guys as always. Don't forget, everybody, like the video, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. If you're watching on the replay, drop a comment below. Make sure you go to these guys' channels and give their support as well. Want to be all across the board, everybody being cool to everybody. So I think our job is done here, gentlemen. So I'm going to turn you loose. Or does AR have to stay after class, Lead? Is he?
Yeah, I think he should stay after class for some remedial training and stuff like that too. Thanks. I just wanted to say thank you for having me on the show. And just as a reminder, I've moved to a new format with lives daily as kind of a call-in show. You guys both have a standing invitation. I've sent you a link. That link shouldn't change unless for some reason we have to change the studio, but that link should be the same. Feel free to drop in on my lives anytime as just a drop-in guest if you want to, or if you see a topic that you want to drop a comment on. You're welcome to be on my show, but thank you for having me on yours today.
Yeah, I almost did last night, but we were eating, so I'm like, I don't want to be on there trying to eat.
AR dropped by for a while. One of those
AR was on. We were on there together earlier. That was kind of funny.
It was great. So yeah,
I appreciate that. I definitely will take you up on that. So that'll be fun. All right, thanks, very guys. Good. Thanks, guys. AR, good to see you. Lee, good to see you, and everybody else. Have a good evening.
Later.
Got you fired up and thinking you earned a nice cold beer or beverage of choice, or if the greenery is what you dig, I hope it's moist. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a word in the comments. It helps the video grow. Hell yeah, tell your friends you rode with Murder Metal Mayhem today. Spread the word like a case of the clap in a trailer park. We all know that hussy who can get the whole part scratching. Hell yeah, tell your friends you rode with Murder Metal Mayhem today. Spread the word like a case of the clap in a trailer park. Like a case of crack in a trailer park.